but I've lived in the village since 1991, and so I know Windsor pretty well. My origins are from Greater London. Sorry, my origins are from Greater London, which is where I was born and brought up in West London. My father was Horace Edison, Vernon Cutmore. The Edison was from the famous inventor, whose his father, my grandfather, was an inventor as well, and he greatly admired Mr. Edison. So anyway, my father, Horace Cutmore, was born on the 17th of November in 1890. This is a drawing of my father, aged 24, in 1914. And I was born in 1944. He was born in 1890, so you'll readily work out that I was an afterthought. I was 19 when he died in 1983. Sorry, 63. This is awful, isn't it? Anyway, he volunteered into a regiment which was later called the Artists' Rifles in the first year of World War I, aged 24 years old, and was initially stationed at the Tower of London. This drawing was made by one of his fellow new recruits in the cookhouse at the Tower, and he told me he was peeling potatoes when it was drawn. The Artists' Rifles were perhaps one of the most curious regiments of the British Army. It was formed in 1860 by a group of artists, architects, poets, sculptors, musicians and actors concerned at that time about a possible French invasion, 1860. The Pre-Raphaelites were early members of the regiment, as was William Morris and various poets. The painter, Frederick Lord Leighton, President of the Royal Academy, joined on the 5th of October 1860. The regiment was the natural choice for young men of an artistic persuasion at the outbreak of war in 1914. Artists like John and Paul Nash, the poets Edward Thomas and Wilfred Owen, and the playwright Noel Coward wore the uniform of the Artists' Rifles. My father wasn't an artist, although he did have a very good eye for artistic things. And I really know very little of his war career, as he hardly talked about it. I do know he was made a sergeant in the First Battle of the Somme in 1914, and later that year he was promoted to second lieutenant. 3 years later, having been wounded in October 1917, he was sent home to recuperate. And he rejoined the offensive as a lieutenant in the Second Battle of the Somme, which was fought from August 1918. This image is one of the Nash pictures of soldiers coming out of a snow-covered field. Just imagine there would be sitting ducks against the white background for snipers. So that's pretty awful. So he rejoined the offensive, as I said, as a lieutenant in the second battle from August 1918, and it was one of the most decisive conflicts of the war. By the end of October of that year, the war was more or less over. He ended the war with a Victory Medal, the British War Medal, and a Service Medal. He said that if he hadn't been wounded by that piece of German shrapnel a year before and been sent home to recover, he would almost certainly not have survived the carnage. And I wouldn't have been standing here.